everyone. Hello and welcome back to the Designer's Den. We're doing it live today. I think it was pre-recorded last week or maybe the week before. I don't know. Timing is, you know, ephemeral. And so I am very excited today to have on as my guest, Bryan CP Steele. Do you go by the whole thing at all times?
Just professionally. I'm normally just Bryan, but there's a jazz musician and a Hollywood actor that they're Bryan Steele's as well. So I started adding this CP about 15 years ago just to differentiate me from the others.
Cool, cool. Yeah, so my name is pretty unique. So we both have just our names as our handles. So that means we're cool, everybody, okay? uh, Bryan here is on the core design team for Essence 20 from Renegade Games Studio and um, was also on the design team for the Power Rangers book that they put out using that system. So that's what we're going to talk about today, along with just, uh, how they came up with all of that and what else Bryan does, how he got into this hobby, why he can't get out, the usual stuff. Without further ado, Bryan, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit? Like I said, how did you get into all of this?
Typical gamer prisoner. Started off as a kid, painting miniatures and playing D&D with my cousins, and I just never really left. It was always the one thing. Skateboarding came and went, bass guitar came and went, hockey came and went, but gaming always stuck around. Uh, and
Some of those were sports, and that sounds like work.
it, but they were fun work. They were okay. That was many years and many pounds ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to get into. I've always wanted to be a writer, like writing fiction and things. And apparently my computer wants to tell you that. It's, shush that. We're live, guys. And I've always wanted to write stories and novels, and I did some like magazine work and stuff coming out of high school and in college. And at one point, I I was in a series of bad retail gigs, and my wife at the time looked at me and was like, "You got to do something. Your soul is dying. This is not creative." Well, I had left the retail gigs and ended up at a cubicle job, like insurance number crunching. It was as banal as you could possibly get. And she was like, "Every day you come home and you're withered a little, and you're just a little smaller every day." And so we talked to my the local comic book shop. I've always been a big comic book nerd.
Oh yeah.
And we were going to buy in. We were going to take a big business loan out and buy into the comic book shop and kind of co-run that, so it would give me an opportunity to be able to write while I'm sitting there looking at people buying comic books. I don't know exactly where that was going, but during that process, while we were talking about the ins and outs of it, the guy who was already owning the store said, "Hey, if you're gonna do this for real, you need to come with me to one of the trade shows."
Yeah.
And so that was the first time I went to the Alliance trade show up in Fort Wayne.
Beautiful Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Beautiful Fort Wayne, Indiana. But I had never been to anything like that before. I've been doing Origins and Gen Con and stuff as a gamer forever, but I had never been to the other side of the coin. And so I went there, and they're throwing free stuff at you, and I'm like, this is my dream. I never want to stop doing this. And there was a little booth, little tiny cute booth, had really just gorgeous art on it, and they had a little miniatures game, little steampunk miniatures game that they were going to sell the next year. But they were showing people, here's what unpainted minis, index card stats, and it was awesome. I played it all night long with one of the owners, one of the guys who was creating it. We went next door, drank free beer, and played this amazing game. And at the end of the night, I told him, I was like, "You've got something really cool here. If you ever need anything for this, anything at all, I was, to be completely honest, I was absolutely just fishing for free stuff. I was looking for merch, no question. I was like, you want me to do anything, I will peddle this in our stores." And I gave them my MySpace card. Yeah, that's dating how long ago this was. And I forgot all about it. And like a month later, Matt Wilson, the artist formerly from WotC and now Privateer Press,
Hmm.
uh, gets a hold of me and goes, it says on your page that you've done some writing. You want to do a test piece for us? And I was like, absolutely, 100%,
Yeah, done. So.
whatever. Yeah, yes. And so I wrote up a little story about a little goblin who hung out with a goblin that smoked a pipe and had a pocket watch,
Hmm.
wore a bowler cap, and he hung out with these amazing steampunk wizard guys. And at the end of the story, I actually had the goblin get like tragically murdered.
Right.
And, well, because darkness, edgy. I was big into vampire then, and the my wife at the time, she looked at me and she read the story and she goes, why'd you kill him? I'm like, because it's edgy and cool. I'm 21, like let's do this. And she's like, why don't you? She's like, you should have him live. You should have him like duck at the last minute or be too lucky to act. Like, have him be comedy relief. And I was like, all right, cool. So I rewrote the end of the story, turned it into Matt, and that ended up being the opening story for War Machine Prime in 2003. This little guy, oh, wrong hand. This little guy right here, that's the original art for Reinhold. That's my goblin. That the very first character that I ever made that made it into a page that turned into a mini. So War Machine Prime was my first real paid gig in 2002,
And that's
and
not too bad.
I from that point forward, I was like, I can't. This is what I want to do,
Hmm.
and the rest is history. I worked for, I think at this point, like 10 or 11 different companies, all kinds of different licenses, and I love it. You know, it's long hours, but it's super fun.
Yeah, and Rick is in chat trying to make us even older, saying it was your GeoCities card. Be real. Knock this off, Rick. No.
No.
We're old enough as it is, okay? Um, but that's actually a much more intentional origin story than a lot of us in the industry have. So it's actually really interesting to hear that because most of us were like, well, I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and then I did a thing, um, and now they keep calling me, and I don't know how to say no.
That is so true. I never really thought about that, but that is one of the biggest weaknesses of everybody in this industry.
Yeah.
Is the Do you have time for that? I'll make time for it. You know,
And you're looking at your calendar with 28 out of 31 days booked with stuff, and you got 4 deadlines happening in the month, and they're like, it's kind of a rush job. We need it by the second of next month, and you're like, fine time. It's cool.
like if I average like 5 hours of sleep instead of six, I can totally get that done in 2 weeks. Yeah.
No, let's be real. You're thinking, I can just pull a couple of overnighters, like this whole week maybe. It'll be fine.
Oh, I can't do overnighters anymore. I come close every once in a while, but I will drop dead.
Yeah, I do stay up late when I've got like a crunch, but I've got I don't know. I've always had like my prime creative hours are like 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. anyways, so that's cool. Whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
not I can't do that.
I also don't really function very well before 10 a.m., so it all works out.
No worries.
Nobody at work schedules meetings for me early in the morning during my day job, which isn't this. But anyways, yeah. So that's how you got into all of this, and then this turned into that and another thing, and then you ended up working over at Renegade Games with Elisa,
Uh,
and yeah,
so I'm not technically I'm not staff.
right.
I am
Well,
a
I
I am a
mean,
contracted freelancer. Well, I just want to make sure that
yeah.
nobody like calls Renegade and be like, hey, that guy in the Green Power Ranger shirt was talking smack. So
So we're all contractors mostly.
for the most part, I'm trying to change that, but we'll see.
Well, cross right then. But yeah, working with Renegade, and they got the green light from Hasbro to create a system for several licensed properties, and that's kind of where we got to where we are at now. More licensed properties to come, but a couple have been announced so far, and that is Power Rangers, which we're going to talk about,
Yep.
G.I. Joe, which my friends worked on and we're not talking about, and My Little Pony, which my friends are working on, and we're not talking about either. But they all work on the same basis.
Well, and Transformers.
Oh, and Transformers.
Yeah,
So Transformers and Power Rangers in my head have merged into one entity, even though they're not.
but they can play together.
They can. Yeah, you can.
With the awesomeness that is the Essence 20 system.
You can technically bring your ponies too.
Absolutely. I mean, eventually, yes.
Yeah. Well, we haven't. It's not all done yet, okay, everyone. We can only write one book at a time
Exactly.
while we're working on 4 simultaneously. Okay. Yeah. All right. So we started with the Essence 20 system. So we had to have a system first. So you were on the core design team for that. What was that process like? Because we wanted to have something that was familiar to people, right?
So Elisa is the lead, the senior RPG developer lead. She is. I call her my boss lady, and she hates it.
Yes,
I mean, it's tongue in cheek. She's always like, "I'm not your boss." I'm like, "Ah, but you are. You tell me what to do. You're my boss."
you are, but not like in the bad way, but in like
No,
the.
Elisa's amazing. I love her to death. I recently tweeted where I said that yeah, the games are really cool and I love what we've done with the Essence 20, but honestly, it's the friends I made along the way. It really, and I hate to be like that, but it really is like,
Yeah.
especially. So I knew Elisa only tangentially before this. Like we had common friends and common industry stuff. Same as with most people. The convention family is very wide.
Mm-hmm.
And when she called me up or texted me and was like, "Hey, I think I've got this thing that you might be perfect for. Are you interested in these licenses?" And I'm dancing around the studio, hopping up and down. Oh my god! 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 Yeah, yes,
you're
yes.
Like, yes, I am of the appropriate age to love all of these things.
Yes, this is perfect. Yes, whatever you want. We haven't talked about terms. Don't care. Like let's do this.
You remember how we don't know how to say no? Okay, I've already said yes.
This exactly. It's like, oh wait, no. I guess negotiation doesn't happen. But I've over the last year and a half, that team was my primary contact point through COVID, through all that. We had weekly meetings. All of us got together on Zoom, and 80% of it is game chat and stuff about the design and stuff about what we're doing, and then the other part is just checking in and finding out what's going on with people.
Being humans.
Yeah, being digital humans. Yeah. It's what we have to do. But I love those guys to death, and when we had to sit down and actually come up with the kind of the skeletons, what do we want to do with this system? Let's set the parameters first. Let's make the outline. And our initial outline was a lot like trying to put 12 people in the box and go, all right, what are we gonna do? But Elisa had a very, very cool concept to start off. Like she came to the table with, here are the ingredients, now let's make a cake. And then all of us, started playing with the ingredients, and we came up with, a cake pie tart thing that ended up being Essence 20.
I think what she calls it in all the interviews is like a faction plate system for character design.
Which we use a lot of old people references. A lot of people don't remember faction plates. Or I had monster plates. I had the same thing that was. Do you know what I'm talking about? The toy? Okay. So yeah, we all had that reference point.
I'm older than I look.
That's a plus. Let me tell you, I feel older than I am.
Oh God, yeah.
But yeah, so basically the system, we wanted it to be recognizable. So someone who maybe has watched a couple episodes of Critical Role, or maybe caught a Twitch stream of some random people playing a completely different system, but has the concept behind a role-playing game more or less down, they can look at Essence 20 and go, okay, I get it. They might need some handholding to get through to how the system functions, the crunchy bits, but they'll get the concept of, you have a character, the character has these stats create these skills are what you use, and now here's the dice mechanic that makes them go.
And the D20 is still the most important. Don't worry, we're not changing that.
For everybody who loves that D20, it's on everybody's shirts and stuffies and
Or I'm not. I'm wearing the dragon one, not the D20 one today.
oh, I've got my critical miss shirt.
Yeah, this is my D&D pride. It's got the ampersand and all that, but no D20. But I have a D20
But you have it. You of course you do.
right here.
Yeah, you have to in case you need to roll something. Somebody in the Twitch stream says, on a 10 or better, talk about this, and that you have to know.
Oh, I rolled a 1, so good news.
So good news. We don't have to talk about that.
That is like the 8th one I've rolled in a row. Because I just did a stream earlier today. I'm gonna put that die in that mouth.
I only recently found out that dice prisons were a thing.
Yeah.
That like the superstition is deep enough that there are items.
Yeah. I'm on Team Page Lightman though. That dice prison is if you're up to rehabilitating your dice, right? We like to make an example out of them. You find one that's been really bad and you microwave that thing. And then you sit it out there in its melted glory for all the rest to see, and you're like,
You've made an example.
Do you want to behave now?
My favorite dice behavior story. I'm a big miniature gamer, and I play a lot of like 40K, and currently designing the new Warzone, and so there's a lot of games that get played. One of my best friends, his game table used to butt up against the window that led to his backyard, and many times we'd be playing a game. And if so you'd be like, anything but a 1 with 2 rerolls, 3 ones in a row, it would just grab it and chuck it out the window. And
that's the other option.
When his daughter would mow the lawn, every once in a while you'd hear, and you'd be like, oh, there's one. Yeah, be like, don't let it hit the house. Yeah. All right, where were we at?
It wants to look recognizable, so the D20 is the most important.
Yes.
Outside the D20, though, it's not your classic D20 system. It's not D&D.
Correct. It is absolutely not that system. You might recognize some common role playing game mechanic like terminologies, but how they function is going to be dramatically different. One of the big things that we definitely wanted to do is we did not want to make a dice mechanic that left the dice that you own out in the cold. The commonplace ladder of dice, the D4 to D6, D8, D10, D12, and D20.
So we get to use the D12.
Yes. Well, hopefully, eventually you get that goal. The way the system functions, if we want to go into that,
let's do it.
Is your skill level gives you a skill die. Starting off, as soon as you gain your first point in a skill level, you have a D2, which is basically a coin. And in the Power Rangers dice set, it actually is the Power Ranger coin. Like it's, oh yeah, you have a coin and a candle? Or is it just a starter? Oh, okay. I was like, why do you have a coin? You have a penny and a candle.
I do. I have the rest of my
Why is that a thing?
They all smell nice, though.
Oh, well, that's good. All right. My dice smell good. Why? Store them in a candle. You know what? There are worse options. But yeah, so it starts off at a D2. Next level you get is a D4. Next level you get is a D6, D8, D10, and your max skill level in anything is a D12. And then during gameplay, depending on if something is easier or harder, you might have your dice type get shifted. So if you're doing something super crazy easy, your game master might look at you and say, take 2 dice shifts up. So if you were at a D4, now you're rolling a D8. And that skill die is always rolled in conjunction with the D20. So you roll your D20, and then you roll your skill die, and you add them together. And if that number equals or exceeds the difficulty of what you're trying to do, you succeed.
But when I'm rolling skills, though, at a D8, I'm not just rolling these 2 dice. I'm rolling 3 more.
Only if you are specialized in that skill. That's the benefit of specialization. And what specialization is basically instead of increasing your die type, you add something cooler. So like, let's say in Power Rangers, well, we'll use Tommy. He's Green Ranger. Everybody loves Tommy. Tommy fights with the Dragon Dagger. So he probably has the finesse skill, and at some, which is one of the close combat fighting types. And when he gets to a certain point, he goes, "Oh, hey, I better be cooler at daggers than other types of finesse fighting." So he spends a skill point on finesse to specialize into dagger. And then now, if he's at a D8, when he rolls that die, he's rolling the D20, like always. But then he is also rolling a D2, a D4, a D6, and the D8, and you take the highest die that is shown.
Lost my D4 somewhere,
but lost your D4. So you always add the D20.
Yes.
And then the highest die from whatever skill dice you've rolled. Which is so why when you get a higher die, you have a chance of getting a bigger number, because the other part of this is if your skill die, if any of your skill dice, aside from the D2, it's very important to leave out that D2.
D2 is 50-50.
If any of those dice are their highest result and the skill, whatever you're doing, succeeds, it actually becomes a critical success.
Okay, so you've got a much higher chance getting a critical success if you specialize in something.
Yeah, you're throwing a lot more dice to get those higher numbers, but you're also throwing a lot more dice to try and get that highest showing number. And when you critically succeed, most of the time it just adds whatever your like if it's in combat, if your weapon does 1 damage, now it's doing 2. But there's a lot of weapons that might or weapons or gear or whatever that might have if you critically succeed, you do your damage and knock them over. Or you do your damage and they are frozen for the next turn, or something along those lines. There might be an additional critical effect that's not necessarily damage.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. The only other thing that's cool about well, it's not the only thing, but the other thing about the trying to get higher numbers, the difficulties in the game tend to be a little lower. Just because you're always rolling a D20, and most of your average skills will start off at like a D4. Like once you build your character, a lot of people will stop at like a D4 and start branching out to other things, which means without any dice shifts, the best you can do is 24. And so if you set something at a difficulty 25, there is no rule of auto succeed. There is no rule of auto fail. If you rolled a 1, but you had a D12 in the skill and you rolled a 12 and the difficulty was only 10, that's actually going to be a critical hit. Because you even though you've rolled a 1, you're still succeeding, and you rolled a 12 on your D12. Yeah. So the opposite, though, is that if you ever have a 1 on your D20 and you fail, then it's a fumble. And fumbles are basically the GM comes up with something. There's no set rule that says if you're firing a gun and you fumble, you shoot your friend or anything. It's you set it. The GM makes that choice, and then you have there's a benefit for fumble. There's a failing forward moment, a learning from your mistakes. Anytime that you allow a fumble to actually happen, like you don't re-roll it, you don't cancel it with any other weird power or anything, it actually happens, you gain a story point.
All right, so you're fumbling because you were real nervous, your hands are sweaty, and you learn, maybe I should wear gloves.
Yeah, maybe I should wipe my hands off before I do the electronics thing. Yeah. And then story points are an Essence 20 constant. This is going to be something you're going to see in all of the different. This is part of the system, not Power Rangers. The story points are, you get a pool of story points to start the game every session with. You get a few as you do cool things during an adventure, or if you fumble. There's ways for you to gain more story points, but then you get to use story points to do all kinds of neat things. You get to reroll any die roll of 1. So you can burn a story point to potentially get around screwing up a fumble, but you got to have that choice of, is it
worth it? Is that important?
Is it important for me to burn a story point and not gain 1? It's a swing of 2, but you can also use them to in Power Rangers, if the whole team chooses to spend a story point, they can have as what's called a grid energy bloom, and everybody gets to recharge some of their finite resources.
Yeah, power of teamwork.
Yeah, the power of teamwork. Personally, my favorite thing for story points, hands down, and in all of the games I ran at Gamehole Con, I urged people to be like, no, don't forget, you can do this thing, is someone can spend a story point to basically have access to a piece of equipment or an item that they don't have normally, and you got to basically describe, like, the
How did
key
you
to
get
the
it?
shed is under the mat.
Okay.
Or you're trying to break open this crate and you go, my strength skill sucks, I can't do this. And you go, I'm spending a story point, can there be a crowbar or something, can I find something that can help me open this? And as a GM, you're obviously, you don't want to look at them and say, well, you spent a story point so you don't get anything, but you want to try and help them build. The whole point of SS20 is to try and build a really cool story about the game that you're playing, which is one of the things that Elisa had said from the very, very beginning, is we wanted this to be a very malleable,
Mm-hmm.
not so much like loose rules, but more in the, if as a player I decide that this skill might apply a little better, I'm going to try and brain my way through this instead of smashing it. I can talk to my GM and say, "Can I use this? Can I use this skill instead?" And here's why. We want the players and the GMs to work within the system to come up with a cooler moment, because just having the quote unquote nerdy character sitting there pounding on the door because the strength check doesn't work over and over and over again, it gets kind of repetitive, and I can't imagine that being fun for that character.
It's also not realistic. Like, yeah, the nerdy kid would know their strengths and weaknesses and would be, maybe instead be like, well, I don't know the door code, but I know the phone number of the custodian does, and I bet we could convince him
Ex-
that we were administrators who needed it.
exactly. Could I possibly use my persuasion instead of my strength to get this door open?
Yeah, social engineering.
Exactly. And
It's
that's
real
what we
life.
want. That's yeah, that's what we wanted out of this system, is basically some more cooperation between players and GMs, because all of us kind of universally viewed, there's nothing wrong with the DM out there that's like, I'm, the looming brooding, I'm killing my players tonight. That's, if that's your game and you're having a good time, you're doing it right.
Oh no, my players
But
have to kill themselves. It's fine.
but we wanted this to be more of a cooperative thing,
Mm-hmm.
as best as possible.
I mean, which really, especially with the properties that we have so far, makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
Um, you know, uh, you know, Power Rangers, they're a team. They're gonna bond together. They know their strengths and weaknesses. They're able to adapt to
Yep.
whatever Rita throws at them. You know, My Little Pony. Obviously, every single episode, they're thinking outside the box. They're using the power of friendship. Um, GI Joe. I mean, people who've been in the army, it is nothing but creative thinking when you're solved with your faced the problem where you're like, this was not in the brief. What do we do? Well,
Well, yeah, no, you're 100% right. Is the licenses drove the initial licenses that we knew working with Hasbro. We knew that this was going to be a more of a team-based game. Yeah, you might have somebody who wants to play that loner, and we're down with that, but it's still probably going to, even the loner is going to want to come back to the team. The Green Ranger still comes back to hang out with everybody else.
yeah, Bumblebee comes
Like,
back. It's fine.
yeah. But one of the things that was uh, kind of set pretty early on, is because Power Rangers was the first license that we were really working with, is we wanted to make sure that the the level of danger in this
Mm-hmm.
wasn't set automatically at campy. It wasn't set automatically at rubber suits and smoke. Because I don't know if there's, for anybody who's interested, there's a thing on YouTube that you can look up, that's a live action Power Rangers, like Hollywood level fan film, that is R-rated and brutal. Like, it is no joke. If you wanted to run your game that way, you absolutely could. We've left it open
Yeah, the danger
because
can be mortal and peril at
it
every
is
turn.
it is absolutely up to you. Or if you want, you can have it be more of the 80s style rubber monster, when somebody gets hit, they get flown back in a shower of sparks. That's totally up to you. All of our games thus far that are set up, the Essence 20 system is set up that when you hit 0 health, when you've taken more damage than your health, you suffer the defeated,
Mhm.
like the defeated circumstance. And it's up to the GM to decide what that is. Whether maybe it is you get taken captive, maybe you get knocked out, maybe in the case of a lot of the villains, especially like when you watch these cartoons and you watch these shows, when the villains get when they get blasted, they don't fall down and die. You don't see them always putting handcuffs on everybody.
Right.
Sometimes their defeated is "I'll get you," and they run away. And so that might be in a written adventure or something. That might be the defeated scenario for a particular guy.
That makes
Uh,
me think of Scooby-Doo. They work for you, meddling kids.
Work for you, meddling kids. Yeah. But yeah, that was the big thing, is that we wanted to make sure that from the very beginning is this doesn't have to be. Now, if you sat down at a table and your GM says, "Hey, in this game, we're firing real bullets. Cobra's gonna try and kill you. The putties are gonna try and drown you in their weird grayness." That whatever the case may be, then that's fine. You've set that precedent ahead of time. But the actual, like, the game itself says you are defeated and you choose what that happens to be.
And I think that lends a lot of flexibility to it, especially for like the wide range of ages that the property so far and the system are
Mm.
meant to appeal to. Because I mean, obviously, if like you're playing with a group of younger people and they got the book, they know how to read,
Yeah.
and they're like, well, when it says I die, it says I explode into chunks. Like, um, well,
Sorry.
not in
Yeah.
my game. And they're like, but that's what
Yeah.
the book says. So having it in there specifically that like it doesn't necessarily mean you're killed. We've got all these
Yeah.
options to explore. I think that sets the system up really well for being more narrative based around death.
Yeah.
I mean, did you die? Were you exploded into chunks? Sure, we could say that. Let's do it. Let's talk it out, act it out, theatrical. Um,
Well, there's
and
nothing
then
that
how do they put you back together?
yeah, well, there's nothing that bums me out more if you're playing a D&D game and something just, the dice fall bad, you have a bad night, and the dreaded TPK. In Essence 20, the TPK could actually be the entrance to a new adventure.
Mhm.
You could literally just have everybody, you wake up and next session you are in the Lunar Palace. Rita has taken you captive.
Which honestly, how many other role playing system games have we started where you inexplicably start waking up in a jail cell with none of your stuff?
Yeah,
How did you get
exactly.
there? Don't worry about it, okay?
Yeah, somehow, yeah. Oh wait, you're this guy. You got drunk and woke up here.
Well, I wouldn't do
D&D's
that.
filled with a lot of drunks.
Yeah.
Where do you go? The
Okay.
tavern.
Okay. Well, Durnan. All right. It was Durnan's fault. It's all Durnan's fault. That's how we got the musical with Dread Gazebo. Which much like Dread Pirate Roberts is a title that gets passed around.
Oh, fair enough.
Dread Gazebo.
In one of the games I'm running right now, there's a golden gazebo.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Dread Gazebo is a building inspector,
fair enough.
and he's there to tell you that your stuff is not up to code, and then sing about it.
Let's see.
But
What are we doing?
Underbound the musical, of course.
Okay, there you go.
Which is actually a real thing somebody wrote. Uh, yeah, it was on one of our. We streamed it yesterday, but Greg Marks and a bunch of the other D&D admins wrote that.
Fair enough. All right.
It's silly, but silly is what we need sometimes. And I like that we've got that there. So you don't necessarily die. We've got a lot of
Yep.
opportunities to critically succeed, and it's not super difficult to make a character. All right, let's answer Rick's question before I forget that he's asked it. Will there
Oh,
be many modules coming out as well that are similar to the free RPG Day offering from this year? If you don't
um,
know that, then you don't know that.
I was gonna say I know we have announced that there is at least a Power Rangers campaign style book.
Mhm.
Um, I've been told it was expertly designed and written. Um, I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, I told that to myself basically.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but I know that that's going to be coming out at some point. And there is in the actual core rulebook, in the Power Rangers core rulebook, there's also an introductory adventure as well.
Mhm.
So when you get the book, you can go ahead and kind of run people through a very cool little, extremely Power Ranger feel, like late '80s feeling adventure setup, written by the amazing TJ Storm.
Yes.
Uh,
Make sure to do a montage at some
oh,
point. You have to do a
well,
montage.
you have to. One of the things that we said from our very first meeting, before we ever talked about anything like getting in the nitty gritty things, when I started working on the roles, which are basically the classes of Power Rangers, is that the It's Morphin Time power, the power you get at first level that lets you turn into a Power Ranger, that it is required for you to say it in, like, you, if
Pick your
as a
voice.
game,
Whatever your character voice is, do it.
you have to say it's Morphin Time. And depending on the team, maybe you have, because later seasons, they've got some pretty elaborate hand motions and things.
Oh yeah, they get the full-on magical girl Sailor Moon transformations going on.
And I can't wait for being at. So I ran it a couple times at GameholeCon, and I had some very cool players that absolutely had no problem shouting "It's Morphin Time" and scare the tables nearby.
Yeah.
Oh, it's super good. I can't wait to be like at a Gen Con or something to have like one of these hardcore Power Ranger fans like stand up and do like the season 7 Ninja Fury, like the full spiel, and I'll applaud no matter where I'm at. They're gonna get claps.
I didn't really watch the series where it was more dinosaur, but I do remember that their morphing things were intense. So,
Well, there's the current newest season. So Power Rangers. So
yeah.
when Elisa, little history, when Elisa put me on this team, I originally thought that I was going to be mostly headed up the Transformers thing,
Okay.
because I'm a giant Transformers nerd, and because of how we needed to get the system done and Power Rangers needed to be done first, just because of timing and things, I ended up on the Power Rangers team, and I was a fan, but it was more of a I've
Actual
seen
fan.
very casual. Like I had watched a bunch with my kids. I had watched some when I was younger, but definitely not a super deep dive. And so when I was given like a 6 month window of this is what you're going to be working on, let's start thinking about it. I watched hundreds of episodes, because at the time the first like 22 seasons were on Netflix. Power Rangers has been a thing for
I know.
27 years.
I know. It is one of the longest running, surviving, continuously running
Yes.
franchises geared towards the younger audience, and like just
I had
mind-boggling when you think about it.
Well, and I had no idea. I had no idea how deep this went. I thought it was just rubber monsters and plastic weapons, with a bunch of Japanese footage, spliced in. I honestly had no
I
concept.
mean, at the beginning.
Well, and then I watched on Netflix the Toys That Made Us. If you don't
Yes.
watch that show, so good. There's a Power Rangers episode.
Yes.
And I learned a ton in that. But then as I started watching the show, like getting myself ready for all this design work and stuff, I kind of started to get into it, and I bought I buy, like, I actually order the comics and the trades now. Like it's a really, really cool universe.
I've wanted to do a Rita Repulsa cosplay for many years, but that hair piece is so long. Stopping me, everybody.
Is the big foam the big well have you ever done Leku for a Twi'lek or anything? Because it's basically the same thing. It just stands out.
I have not.
All right, fair enough.
Big elaborate headpieces and I don't get along well because like I have spatial awareness of the rest of the stuff on my body, but like where things are on my head when I turn it, I just can't. Like
Uh,
even tiefling horns when I wear them, I'm like, oh, sorry, whoops,
like,
sorry,
oh,
didn't
not
mean,
so
didn't
much.
mean to knock you there.
Well, and you are of a slightly shorter
Yes,
persuasion,
yes,
so your horns are
million more
perfectly
in
at
the
like
way.
eye level.
Yeah, I'm 5'4", so the number of people where I've like knocked them in the eye, I'd be like, oh, so sorry,
That's awesome.
or oh, just let me get a squeeze. Up, oh, took your eye out.
Did that answer, Rick? Did you
Yes,
get that information?
yeah, he's very cool. Yeah, so got the intro adventure here, a TJ Storm, which you know is going to be great because we started off with an Isaac Asimov epitaph. So, you can't judge a book by its cover, but sometimes you can judge a short adventure by its epitaph. It's cool. It's fine.
Fair enough.
At least you can at least judge the author of it.
Okay.
Uh, so, apologies to anyone reading anything that I wrote. Some of them are very out there. I read a lot, and sometimes the thing that I remember dredge up from my memory banks is like tangentially related. No, it's not.
It's okay.
But it sounds cool. But yeah, so secret of a successful fool is that he's no fool at all.
Ooh. And when you get into that adventure, you understand roughly why he's talking about something clownish.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's called Fool's Errand, so
Yeah.
start. Totally, that's it. That's the whole thing. But no, as we get into it, it is a very well written. I think that it. This is one of the things I did read. I think that it does an excellent job, kind of setting you up and letting you know like how much of it is going to be focused on like just tell me what cool thing you do, which which to me, makes a good RPG. You can have as many mechanics as you want, but if you can't just like set the table and like describe to your DM like DM, storyteller, whatever. All right, I want to do this, and I'm gonna justify what I'm using on my sheet because that is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Am I succeeding at
Yeah, who knows?
it?
But yeah.
Questionable. Um, but like going into this, it's just like, okay, I'm a Power Ranger, and this is how we're gonna overcome this obstacle battle, and you can just go into it. And yeah, battle simulation.
Well, and this also it sets the tone that you are not necessarily. I mean, you can if you want to. It's up to you. That you're not necessarily playing the Rangers that you know, like the
No,
ones from the
you're the
shows,
ranger.
comics. You're the Ranger. Now, if you decide that you really want to make someone exactly like someone from the show, well, go ahead. That's the character you want to portray. But it is we aren't going to tell someone if they want two of the alien rangers, one Mighty Morphin style, and like there's it's up to you. You put together the team that you want to put together, and the GM will help you make that make sense.
Or instead of Tommy from the Ranger that you could base your personality on Tommy Pickles. That's fine.
Oh, Rugrats reference. Does
Yeah.
that mean Reptar would be a Zord?
Yes. Yes.
Whoa, Reptar Zord, sweet.
Oh. Reptar would be the best sword. Angelica is also obviously a monster.
Well, I think half of them would be. Although I think, Phil and Lil would have to have like one Zord between them. Like they both sit in the cockpit. We have to come up with some kind of weird rule for a dual piloted Zord.
I'm piloting the left side. I'm the right side. Why are we going in circles? I'm yelling in circles.
Mighty Morphin Power Rugrats. Love it. I love it.
But yeah. So going into this and doing all of this stuff. So you have obviously got, your theory and everything that you're approaching with Essence 20. So you
Mhm.
started in on Power Rangers. Power Rangers was the thing. You were like, all right, it's first, gotta do it. Um, you know, you've read a bunch of comics. You watched a ton
Whole lot, whole
of
lot of Power
TV,
Rangers.
and obviously that influenced your design.
It helped me figure out what aspects of the story needed to, because one of the things we wanted to do is try, I mean, Hasbro was watching, they're not gonna let us make something and go, oh yeah, no, we just throw things at the wall and hope it sticks. uh but we wanted to try and make sure that the game had the feel of the license being represented.
Mhm.
And making a character is easily probably one of the most fun things. I mean, obviously playing the game is the most fun, but like I've made,
Oh, there's like a whole subsection of the TTRPG community who just make characters and who never get to play.
as I think my D&D Beyond is covered in characters that will never see the light of day. I may use them as an NPC at some point, but oh no, it's ugly. There's a lot
We
there.
don't talk about our D&D Beyond character repository.
Oh, that's a no-no. I didn't realize.
We don't talk about Bruno.
I still haven't seen that. I watched about 20 minutes of it yesterday with my family before I had to eat anything.
Excellent movie. The music had no right to be as good as it is.
Fair enough.
Lin-Manuel Miranda, though. So, but yeah. So we want to keep the core feeling of
Yeah,
what is Power Rangers, even though obviously that's changed many times over the year. We've got iterations.
absolutely, absolutely. But there's always been kind of a general sort of lean that there is this thing called the Morphin Grid, and the Morphin Grid is kind of it's an alternate dimension energy. It's like if the Force and the Matrix had a baby. It's because I learned through the comic books that it's actually a physical place that people have gone.
Mhm.
They can go into the grid and like swim around and look at stuff. But like primarily, it is just this sort of ever-present energy presence that allows those who are attached to it in one way or another to kind of draw energy and draw stuff
Mhm.
into in from this kind of alternate dimension to do their things. And it's tapped into by various morphers and crystals and all kinds of, the Zords themselves have their own little pocket dimensions that they hang out in, and then they pop out. And, it's the reason why the Dragon Zord comes out of the ocean every single time he's summoned, is that he's not actually coming out of the ocean. He's coming out of his little pocket area, his lair within the Morphin Grid. Happens to look like a coastal arrival. But yeah, it's just we wanted to make sure that your characters are human beings. Well, I shouldn't say human beings because you obviously could be robots or aliens or
Humanoids.
well, there's one of the one of the Omega Rangers, I think, is not humanoid. He's very weird looking.
Oh, yeah.
It's from the comics. Is very weird looking. But either way, that you were some kind of being that was chosen as a role. Like you weren't born to be a Power Ranger. You didn't, it's not like in D&D where you're like at 4 years old, I knew I was going to be a sorcerer, or I grew up as a barbarian and I'm going to stay a barbarian because this is my club and its name is Nancy. Like you start off as a person and you live some life, and then you are chosen in the Mighty Morphin years. You're a teenager with attitude. Like that was sometimes a good attitude, sometimes not. And we wanted to have you build a personality, and then apply the ranger aspect to you, like what kind of ranger you will be, and then that's the part of you that grows from level 1 forward.
Okay, so yeah, so that whatever you were in Power Rangers, that's your influences, your background stuff.
The first thing you are is your origin.
Yeah.
And that is the core nature of your being. Basically, what in some origins might be how you were born or how you were raised, or just kind of your no matter what you do or say, this is sort of how you approach life. Your influences, which you always take at least one, and you can have up to 3 influences of stuff that's happened or is happening to you over time.
Okay.
So you could have an influence that is maybe you are an intern at the local hospital, so you take care of people. So that particular influence could be the caretaker influence.
Mhm.
You might be, maybe you're just not like somebody who wants to play the alien. Someone goes, I really, really, really want to be a Syrian. I want to be the dog-headed aliens from Sirius.
So you're not from around here.
That's there's an influence of not from around here, where you work with your game master, where you choose a skill. In the case of a Syrian, I would probably be like, well, I want my bonus that comes with the perk to be, or it comes with the influence. I want my bonus to be with alertness because I'm super bloodhoundy. Like I'm very, that's my thing. If you were playing a robot that was not from around here, maybe you're like, my bonus is in technology. I have a knack for it, so to speak. That's what the influences do. If you only choose one influence, if you're like, this is all I am, I was devoted to this, then you're good. You get an influence perk, you get the bonus, and that's it.
Yeah, but who just has one influence? And Rick, who would take it so seriously? We left the puns in the previous stream, okay?
And you can choose up to 2 more influences to make your life more diverse, make your character more diverse. But because you have added more stuff to your life, more stuff has happened to you, both positively and negatively.
You got pulls in all sorts of directions.
And each influence after the first, so influences 2 and 3, you have what's known as a hang up. And a hang up is sometimes a narrative thing, sometimes it's a rule based thing, oftentimes it's a narrative thing that leads to a rule based thing. For instance, like the not from around here, the hang up. I've got my file open. The hang up basically says that you are not you suffer. Oh, I forgot to talk about snags and edge when we were talking about dice.
Oh, yeah.
What the heck, Brian? Uh, so you suffer a snag on all social based stuff because you're not from that area. You're not from Angel Grove. You're not from whatever city you're playing in. In the case we were of the dog alien, you're an alien, and this is not your normal thing. Now, if you chose not from around here as your first influence, you could ignore this hang up and you could say, I've been here long enough that it doesn't bother me anymore. Humans are not weird. They smell funny, but they're okay. If you choose it as your second or third, then you get this social snag. Speaking of snags, so we were talking about the dice earlier. You always roll a d20. If something offers you a snag, it means either you're unskilled in something, or it's particularly difficult, or maybe you have like a hex placed on you, or some kind of weird effect. A snag means you roll 2d20 and take the worst result. Very similar to disadvantage in D&D. And then the opposite of that is edge. If you are if you are benefiting from a cool bonus or like some kind of magic, or maybe somebody is helping you that is skilled in that skill, they're giving you a hand or lending assistance, as the term. You will get edge, and edge is roll 2 dice and take the highest.
Okay.
While it doesn't necessarily help you any better at getting like crits or anything, it does mean that you're more likely to pass the difficulty because you have a much higher swing on hopefully getting those points. So your skill die or skill dice will hopefully pop you over the edge and then have better chance to get you a critical that way.
Okay.
So that's edge and snag.
That makes sense. All right.
Can't believe I forgot that.
I know. I got so excited talking about the actual dice themselves that we did forget.
Dice candle.
Yeah. I think we've covered pretty much like the basics of the game, and we're getting pretty close to the end of our time. Is there anything in particular that you think would, I don't know, appeal about this game to people who've never played, or maybe even to people who've only played D&D, because that's a very large percentage of the population now.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing with Essence 20 is that I know that you're on the TikTok now as well. There is a large TikTok D&D community. It's huge.
It's overwhelming.
And a great deal of that community are newer players. There's a lot of people who have only started because of the last couple of years. There's a whole lot of COVID D&D that popped up, oddly enough.
I don't know about as oddly as and part of Baldwin Games, and we've been running a virtual event every single month.
There you go. So the big thing with the D&D TikTokers that I've noticed is a lot of them are very, very heavy in the concept of it's not about winning and losing, it's about
Right.
creating the story. It's about creating a fun story, a thing that maybe we'll stream and get other people to enjoy. Like that's been a big new thing with D&D. I think Essence 20, when it really starts to roll, no pun intended, that I think that this is going to be a very, very cool game to see people play, to watch people play. We did the Renegade did the Day of Destiny on
Mm-hmm.
Twitch, which was the actual play, DM'd by Dustin from D4. He's so cool.
Uh,
Um,
Justin Fletcher.
Dustin Fletcher. He did an amazing job at just kind of getting people really into the concept of what this game can be, and I think it is only going to get better from there. I think you're going to see this now that the book is, as of this upcoming week, going to be out in stores. People are starting to get their pre-order copies like right now. Um,
You can get the PDF right now. You could have bought it last week.
yeah, I think that you're going to start seeing more streams, and then as the new licenses come out, you're going to see some combined streams, and I think that's going to be really cool. That's that like that. I'm looking forward to seeing some of the high theatrics
Mm-hmm.
that D&D sometimes can lack, because it is a little more like D&D and Pathfinder and those kinds of things, but they're a little more crunchy of a system.
Mm-hmm.
I
Oh,
think
especially.
well, not no.
Oh, come on.
uh, I
Pathfinder versus 5th edition. Yes.
I think that we're gonna see some very, very cool, top notch, like theatrical streams because of how this system is built.
I think so too.
Um,
I think that's a great point, especially with how many people are coming up, and we're more concerned about making an entertaining story.
yeah,
I think we won't. Not only will we see great streams for the properties that are being released and intermingling of all of those, but once people really get a hang of the system, they're gonna start bringing in their own favorite things and just
yep,
layer it on top, because it is an open system, a versatile system. Sure,
yeah,
you're telling them how to use it, um, with these properties, but that's just like a template.
yeah. Well, and it's like in any of the adventures and stuff. I think I'm pretty sure TJ did this in his adventure, and I know I did it in the ones that I've written. Is that a lot of times it'll call for a particular skill test. it, Even if it says like here's this skill and it's got like the specialty, that's just a suggestion.
Oh yeah.
This is basically, I mean, barring, if you're picking up the gun and trying to shoot the gun, it's probably going to use targeting 99% of the time. But if that player comes up with something weird as a DM or as a GM, I'm like, all right, give it a shot. There might be a dice mechanic penalty
Yeah.
involved because you're doing something strange, but that's the kind of stuff that I want to see.
That's
I want
that's what
to.
I love to do as a DM. If you can explain it to me in a way that makes sense, like you want to use your nature skill to get us through this dungeon. Talk me through what you mean.
Yeah, I'm following the mushrooms. All right,
Okay.
mushrooms it is.
All right. Not everyone noticed the mushrooms, so good on you to pick that up.
Exactly, and that's what Dustin did a really good job in Day of Destiny. That there were several times where someone was at the table and they would go, "Can I use my performance?" Or like it was more of a I'm asking the DM if I can, and I think that as people get more and more comfortable with it, you'll see more people inclined to say, "I have this. I think this might apply better."
Mm-hmm. And
So
that I like that. I love that, and I love
yeah.
that about this. So I'm excited to see more people. Uh, I was trying to pull the link to put the VOD for the Day of Destiny thing, but I gotta find it on YouTube. It's no longer a VOD on Twitch. Alright, I'll get that link though, and I'm
Okay.
gonna put it in the show notes, because if you've never seen Dustin GM anything, it will absolutely convince you that the system is cool.
And there are some really cool props in some of the episodes that I did not know existed, and I shot him I shot him a message as soon as the videos went live, and I was like, oh my god, I want one of those. He's like, hey.
He's like, I made it.
So
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Yeah. So of the things that you can announce, this is a great question to close on. Thanks, Rick. Of the
okay.
things that you can announce, what's the current order of release for the IPs that are in the Essence 20verse?
Well, so Scott Gata, the president of the company, was on Facebook, and he did say he has said this on Facebook before, so I can at least
Okay.
mention this. We have the core book coming out next week for Power Rangers, or this week, I guess, if you count this is
Soon.
the game master the game master screen, which has an adventure with it. That's coming out almost back to back, like it is immediately thereafter.
That's brilliant. Bring some value to that screen.
And then the next actual IP release, we know that G.I. Joe is next. And it should be relatively soon. Everything is all weird because of the shipping crisis, and
the supply chain.
Yeah, the supply chain is got some kinks in it.
That's my college degree, supply chain. It's fucked right now, everybody.
But I do know that's still it is in progress. And then Transformers will be sometime after that, and then My Little Pony will follow up,
and then whatever else.
And then who knows? Yeah, I know that I've got some wishes. I've got there are some licenses that if Renegade managed to get a hold of it, I would probably have some goats or something I would need to sacrifice to make sure that I get that gig. No sacrificing goats.
Sacrifice goats.
Well, why?
Because then Paige and I both would be very angry and have to come find you.
Well,
we love the goats.
Oh, fair enough. Well, I mean, so do the spirits of fate. I mean, that's a thing.
I know. But you don't sacrifice goats; you send them as a gift. It's very very
very. All right, I will use that terminology better.
Whether that is positively persuasive, oh my god, I love this goat, it's such a fun gift, of course I'll do it, or negatively persuasive, and like if I do it, will you take this goat, please?
There are 3 goats in my living room. I don't know what to do with them.
Well, I can tell you how to get rid of them. Put me on the design team for.
But yeah, that's what I know so far, and I'm ecstatic. Obviously, if you go to the Renegade Facebook page, they are always updating stuff to say, hey, follow us here, follow this is what's happening, and if you follow any of the rest of us on socials, we all shout about it as soon as we get the okay to do so. We yell to the ceiling and hope that someone hears. So
all right, cool. And I did finally find the first link. All right, linking the episode 1 of the Power Rangers role-playing actual gameplay, amazing. So everyone get that link, and then there's like a whole playlist, so I'm not gonna link them all. But yeah, gosh, this is so exciting. When will Thundar be a part of it, Rick?
Rick, he knows that in the year 2070. Now, real quick, Rick had me crying at Gamehole Con because we were talking about in a good way, crying, laughing, because out of nowhere, we weren't even talking about anything. Like we were talking to another gentleman in the industry about something else. And Rick just deadpan stops and goes, well, guys, in the year 2070, when science and magic fails, and goes through the entire Thundar the Barbarian intro, word for word, perfectly monotone, like he's describing it to a child. And I'm dying laughing. The gentleman from Severanti was dying laughing. Jason, I think. We were just cracking up laughing. That's Rick's favorite license, and I agree that it actually would be an amazing license to have. I think most of the Hanna-Barbera stuff would be top notch, but yeah, no, it kills me It just, and now he does it as a almost a prank. We'll be like talking to a friend of ours, and out of nowhere he'll be like, "Well, guys,
In the year 2070.
in the year 20," and I don't even know if I got the year right. I probably don't. But yeah, he can recite it by heart in the best ways.
Oh, I'm looking it up.
If you give him a second, he's probably typing it out right now. He probably just hasn't come across the Twitch yet.
I know. Oh, in the year. It is not 2070.
Okay, I don't know what it is.
Oh, where did it go? In the year 1994.
Oh, so the year before I graduated high school. Okay.
From space comes a runaway planet hurtling between the Earth and the Moon, unleashing cosmic destruction. Thank you. He is typing. He is typing.
I was gonna say I knew it. I knew it as soon as he mentioned it. That was next. That was gonna pop up next.
I was like 2070 is too far in the future for that, but I don't know.
I
anyway,
couldn't remember.
Rick, submit your petition. It's fine. We'll sign it.
Get on that change.org. We'll get that on there.
Yeah. But anyways, Bryan, thank you so much for coming on the show. I know I'm excited for the rest of the Essence 20 stuff to release, not just because all of my really cool friends have been involved in it, which, by the way, if you need a reason to buy it, it's really cool, you should buy it to support all of my really cool friends, so that they can keep making more stuff in the tabletop industry, and maybe one day quit our day jobs.
This is my day job.
So you can retire and still do this. Let's be honest.
I was gonna say I'm never. I was.
No,
my mother.
Game designers retire and then they do one less thing a year.
Yeah, fair enough. Slow down.
Maybe they add a couple.
Slow down until we eventually stop.
Maybe you swap them for conventions instead.
I still like the conventions too.
I know. But you do more conventions when you're retired.
It's true.
I don't know.
Yeah.
No, see, we retire and we go and we work at a library. Which are all going to be Ed and me.
Work at the library. Everybody's at the library.
Yeah, that's what Ed Greenwood does.
Who?
Ed Greenwood. He's a librarian.
Oh, I know who he is. I just didn't hear what you said.
Yeah. The librarian. So, that's what we're going to do.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
I think it's a bit more involved than that, but he works at the library.
There's more to it than that. Something about books and the Dewey Decimal System.
I don't know. But anyways, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been absolutely great. Next week, I have. Oh goodness. Let me see which two of the four people it was that confirmed. We are talking about Deimos Academy next week. I've got Banana Chan and Amanda Call coming on the show, and we're super excited to talk about that. And we're not going to talk about dice at all. We're going to talk about paper dolls instead.
Cool.
Yeah. It is.
It's a diceless system?
It's a diceless system. It's horror themed.
Okay.
Which isn't usually my cup of tea, so I'm very interested in finding out more about this. I was like, okay, so we're using paper dolls to do something. I gotta know more. So
that's neat.
Yeah. So tune in next week. If you want to learn more about that. I know I, for one, am super excited. The Kickstarter for that, I think, is open or opening soon, or I don't know. I'm not good at calendars. We've established that times.
And what's it called again?
Deimos Academy.
Deimos Academy. All right.
Deimos. Deimos Academy. Yeah. And then that gets us through January. We'll be into February. First Sunday of February, I will not have a traditional show. Might have something. I'll be at Winter Fantasy, and we might just talk to people live on the show floor. We'll see.
Where is Winter Fantasy? Fort
Wayne, Indiana.
Is it really? Oh, okay. Because I'm looking at my calendar and I got nothing going on. So
yeah, we'll all be in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
It's all of like an hour away from me. So
yeah, it's 2 hours from me.
I might visit.
Yeah. I think Rick's gonna be there. I don't know. I didn't confirm. I just assume Rick's gonna be everywhere.
Chances are pretty good.
Yeah.
He'll be drumming up Thundar Biz.
We'll be there. We'll be playing D&D like systems. That's for Genesis, other stuff. I don't
It's a
know.
it's a 1 day gig, isn't it? Like it's pretty much, or is it both Saturday and Sunday?
Second through the 6th.
Holy crap! Really?
Yeah.
That's huge.
I mean, it's
I mean, for
long.
no, but that's, I mean, for a relatively small town show, that's gigantic.
Yeah, we do it every year. It's the Baldwin Games Homecoming. Come, join us. Be part of the family. We have plenty of tickets still available.
I mean, I got this crazy deadline that has to happen, but I might be able to at least pop out on that Sunday.
Yeah. But yeah. After that, we'll be in February. I have some cool people that I've been working on lining up. I have some of them on the calendar somewhere. And besides that, though, if you know anybody who wants to be on the show, I just realized once again that Joe Rasso, I still have not emailed you. We'll get you on in February, okay? It's been like 6 months, I would say. We're doing
Really?
it. I just keep forgetting to email. But he knows. We know. This email works. Wait. Um, it's me. It's me. It's all on me. I'm not putting any of this responsibility on Joe. But no, we're gonna have some more exciting guests. If you know anybody who wants to come on the show and talk about their really cool project, shoot me an email. And yeah, you can always find me online at Jenny Loveday on all of the things, including YouTube. I've got like 18 more months to be excited about that, everybody. It's fine. Bryan, where can everybody find you and your stuff?
Me on Facebook. Oof, it's
Oh,
late. No,
yeah.
on Facebook it's just Bryan CP Steele. Same thing with my Instagram is Bryan CP Steele, but my TikTok and my Twitter is the Professional Nerd, which is
All
also
one
the
word.
name, all squished together in one word. And then that's my weekly YouTube show is Tales from a Professional Nerd.
Yes. And you just talked about this on that
I literally just, yeah, I did a
2 days ago.
stream of consciousness just a couple days ago.
Oh, that was me
But
talking
it's,
about Strixhaven, the first look. I
oh really?
literally opened it. I'm like, all right, we're looking at the book together, everybody.
Yeah, no, that's where you can find me. I friend pretty much anybody who sends a request, just as normal.
Unless you look like obviously on your profile like an enormous.
Well, I mean, if you're really sketchy, then I'll friend you
Oh,
and then unfriend you once I've like done the Google stalk.
yeah. Oh, no, it has to be blatantly obvious.
No, I,
Blatantly obvious.
oh,
Like your first post needs to be something like "I hate babies."
yeah, that would probably. No, I would still Google dive that guy. I'd want to find out why. I'd
Yeah,
want to
I mean,
find out
well,
why.
that's step one of
I'd
it.
be, I'd be like, like a horde of babies, like kill your family, or
Yeah.
tragic, origin
Well, Rick
story.
Rick says you'll friend anyone except for Deadpool and Asafano. Ben says, "Yay, Bryan." Hello, Ben. I don't know when you joined, so good to see you, everybody. But anyways, before we start talking again,
Exactly. You've got things to do.
we're gonna go.
We're gonna go.
I got superhero shows to watch, not Power Rangers. Alrighty, everybody. That is it for this week's episode of The Designer's Den. Until next time. Bye.